One topic, three voices, all equal, all heard, all valued. Welcome to the Dayton Dialogs. We've talked about this before, right? We've had these conversations before. We've had the conversation here before. So we were talking about our place in the experience we've had with privilege. This is a heavy word. I've brought it up many times. It's a conversation that is heated in the marketplace right now, in the national marketplace, the national population. And I think for me, one of the things that has been very interesting for me is the understanding of what that word means for me and how I've run into this word. Because I think my move from the city of Chicago as a macro urban mecca to Dayton, Ohio, has allowed me the opportunity to see what that word actually means. Partly because, most importantly, in an urban mecca like the city, Boston, New York, Chicago, the big guys, I think in retrospect, it was easy to hide. It was easy to hide from the word. You could hide in the noise, right? So if you think talking about the word privilege, it didn't really bother me and affect me because when I was uncomfortable with it, consciously or unconsciously, I can just go and move somewhere else. I can go somewhere else. I can go hang out with other different people. I move here, a different urban-sized mecca, where I can't just simply hide. I don't want to hide. You can't really hide because it's shrink wrap, right? We touch each other, right? And so I land in this space, and two big things happen, right? First thing I see is the word ghetto being used as a whimsical place of living in the student neighborhood of the University of Dayton. And then I end up not sure if I abuse that word privilege by looking to explore that topic in a TED Talk, not allowed to do the TED Talk, and then scream at the top of my privileged lungs to have an opportunity to have a second and third chance to have a version of his TED Talk. So now I'm sitting here going, now I know what privilege is, or does I think I do? I don't like how it's used in certain places, yet am I abusing it is the question I'm having, So when we start talking about this from an ideation standpoint, I just keep flip-flopping and doing all these backflips around this word and my place in it as a white male. And we've had these conversations, and I'm curious, as black men, what does this word really mean for you? Talking from a white dude, too,
I mean, I think for me, it's definitely a word that has a lot of complexity to it. A multitudes of shades of gray, being a black male, even a young black male, at that, given everything that's going on with the national conversations around race, and what that is and what that looks like on a national scale and even a local scale. But for me, I think that you said something very interesting that it hit you when the term ghetto being used on this campus, and what's your relation to that, trying to explore that topic. For me, it's kind of in the same breath of as a young black male, somebody that's educated with an advanced degree, only 25 years old. What does that mean in a landscape where many black males aren't going to college, some aren't even graduating high school? So now, what is my privilege? And when I think about my privilege, I then begin to think about social responsibility to my community.
Hearing Carlos talk about it is like, I'm at the generational spectrum of being 50 years old and having an advanced degree, having gone through all the professional trials and tribulations of being who you are, as choosing a profession. I chose the profession of being an artist and an educator, and so I went down this path. And a lot of times when going down that path, I was the only black male presence in that kind of minefield. You dodge a lot of stuff, and you're still dodging, and you're not dodging as much once you get to the age of 50. He's going through what I went through. And I think and the question is the complexity of my relationship to it is that I'm on the other side of the fence, and I am conflicted.
So your experience right now, we talk about the master content of ideation, right? You're talking from it now as a 50-year-old black male with sense of perspective, generational perspective, and now you're talking from a young 20-something black male who's negotiating the socioeconomic, cultural design of that. You have a privileged sense. Right? In regards to your schooling, correct? No?
Yeah, I think the term privilege is all relative.
Okay.
And there's certain varying levels of degrees of the privilege. Me and him both being black males, us just all being males in general. First and foremost, there's a sense of privilege to that. Absolutely. You know, even a young black woman with an advanced degree, same credentials as me, I still understand that I have more privilege than her in many, if not all, spaces. Even though we're coming from
based on gender.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think there's all varying degrees of that, and we got to certainly keep that into perspective.
What is the outcome for you right now? I mean, and you're polite right now with privilege. We've heard you go through a huge journey, both of you. I'm going through it, and I have a sneaking suspicion I have an concept of my aha at the moment, but I'm going to let you tell me it. But I'm dying to know yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, you know, the aha is really finding my inner zen.
Okay.
You know, being able to escape and being okay with the fact that I don't have to do this work 24/7. As he was just saying, he's a black artist, but he doesn't always have to create black art. Because it is.
I don't have to always explain the black experience. I think I'm going to go there because this is what I don't really care. Is the fact that I don't have to explain the black experience to white people anymore. It is no longer my responsibility for a white person to feel comfortable with black people. Like, done. When I came to that aha moment, I was like, oh well. If you got a question, ask. But but ultimately, in the day, it's not my responsibility. And so that's the problem. That's the stress load. When it becomes your responsibility, that gets you to a very dark place, and it's a heavy responsibility to be the voice of your people. I mean, as we find out, like I said, we touched on it briefly. There are people now speaking out. Kendrick Lamar did a performance, and I actually saw people trying to debate. One was more like it made more sense in that arena versus this one.
Black and black conversation.
Oh, black, white. I was like, they were like, well, you know, you could make a statement at the Grammys, but you can't make a statement at the Super Bowl. I was like,
so if you're
that's not, the sports are not a venue for making a political statement. I was like, oh, can we go back to 1968 with the fist? But okay, I guess we've forgotten conveniently some things there. That to me is like, wow, making these kind of distinctions, which then became a distinction of gender, which was, oh, a black woman, you're supposed to be a sexualized creature for our pleasure. You're not supposed to have a voice and an opinion. Well, a black man is supposed to speak up because he's supposed to have all this rage.
So I don't have this privilege. My privilege does not allow me this stress. I can claim it. That's my privilege can falsely claim it. So is it just to listen? Is it to be able to have these conversations and be conscious enough to have these conversations? Because right now, as a white male who feels like I understand the situation and at least understands conversation around this and has empathy for it, I'm trying to really understand my aha at the moment right now then.
Yeah, I think it's really, it's not even just a privileged white male, but more importantly, a white male that is conscious, right? Understand when you have been accepted into a community because you have probably listened before you have begun to speak. Right now, this conversation that me and Rodney is having is almost a black barbershop experience that many white males aren't privileged to.
Right.
You know, the understanding that you have now come into this space, but now it does go beyond just simply listening when you're continuously finding yourself into these spaces to bring other privileged folks into the conversation so we could try to begin to change. But I wanted to ask you this as well, and you talked about your sort of ideation disruption coming from a larger urban mecca to a smaller mecca in Dayton. How did the generational effect play? Because at that same time, you just had children. You had your twin boys at the same time that you were moving. So how does that play a role in your aha as well?
Well, I mean, I have to teach. I've got to teach the understanding of learning. I've got to teach the understanding of place. And I think what's more importantly for all of us, at least from the white population, I think we have to understand what privilege means and what that abuse and empathy of that term does. Because if I am accepted into your house behind a different gate, as a human, my job is to respect your house and respect what's behind that gate. And if I can teach that intergenerationally, knowing that I'm also a mixed family, that just might be able to kind of start to actually shrink down this generational gap for us.
But you're one of such a few group of people who are willing to have the listening conversation. We're not approaching this from this I'm right, you're wrong sort of perspective. This is very clear cut black versus white when there's this shades of gray in between. And when that's the part with privilege, is that you have the privilege to have a staunch opinion about it as opposed to an openness.
Well, thank you, fellas. It's been good to finally get back in here and do it maybe the right way this time. I don't know. So awesome. And thank you, audience. Thank you for being here. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.